My name is Isaac Sesi. I am the founder and CEO of Sesi Technologies. We develop technology solutions for farmers, and thanks for having me.
Isaac, thank you for being here. I think I've been trying to get you on the podcast for about a decade or something, but finally you're on.
Yeah,
which I consider an honor and a privilege. So there's a lot of things to talk about. Obviously, you are known to the startup world from Sesi Technologies, but you're active in many other categories of startups other than agribusiness. And you've done all kinds of things that led to Sesi before, as well as things after. So I want to cover the whole story first of Isaac Sesi, and then go and talk a bit more about Sesi Technologies, as well as the newer, what I hear, the newer entrepreneurial venture, an educational venture that we'll talk about later. So why don't you tell me a bit about how it all started, starting perhaps with your education, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, so thank you for having me. I mean, after the whole back and forth, it's nice to finally be able to do this. So I have always been interested in engineering and building stuff, even as a kid. So as a kid, I would build like electronic boats and other things that you could play with. And, you know, back then, we really didn't have these stores where you could actually get components to buy, bits to buy, and then assemble together. So it's just like making do with what you can, buying toys, breaking them apart, taking out the motor and see what you can build from it, like using cardboard and seeing what you can build from it. So I went to high school in Ghana, a school called Infantipim School, where I met other people who were like equally as passionate about engineering and building things as I am. So we formed a group, and then we had a chemistry lab to ourselves where we would spend all of our pocket money to go to the shops and buy all the electronic components, and then we would build all of these circuits. So we built quite a number of things, like we built a dishwasher, we built a clothes drying machine, we built like a multi-purpose cooking machine, because in boarding school, you cannot cook your own food. You are confined to the dining hall food. And so we built all of these different technologies to solve the problems we had. So the clothes machine that we built was because we had people stealing our shirts when we hang them outside. So we built a device where we could just dry our own clothes within so like a dryer inside of the lab. So we'd wash, take our clothes there, and then go and dry. So, I mean, all of that foundation created in me a desire to really study engineering going forward. And so I went to university and decided to study electrical engineering. And I went to university in Ghana. And over there, one of the opportunities I discovered was that as engineering students, we had to build all of these projects and circuits and all of that, but there was nowhere to build. I mean, there was nowhere to find the electronic components you needed to build those projects. And so I started the first online electronics retail company called Invent Electronics, which was a place where you could get electronic components to buy for your project and for whatever. So it grew and it became big quickly because, you know,
how old were you
back then? So I was like 19 or 20, I think. Yeah, and then before then I had done other businesses in high school, like, you know, selling hard drives and those kind of stuff. But starting Invent Electronics was like my first real company. So at the time I didn't know how to code yet. I was looking for someone to build a website for me, and the person was busy. And so one summer vacation, I learned how to code. And before I came back, I had built the website, and people could order their electronic components and have it delivered to them, pay from their phones, which maybe in the US or any other advanced country sounds like, hey, we've been able to do this since forever. But in Ghana, that was like very new then. So it was quite innovative. And I became known as the electronics guy, right? So if you needed electronic components, you came to me. And So because of that, people brought their projects for me to help them with. And I had a roommate who was a computer science student. He also was good with coding. And, back then, a lot of people doing computer science were just doing it in theory, but he knew how to code even before he went to do computer science. So people came to him to do projects for them. And we realized that because we're first year, second year, and then the people who were doing the projects for were like in final year, they tried to cheat us, right? Pay us very little money in exchange for our help. So we're like, hey, let's come together and then say we are a company and now charge people more money because you are not dealing with individuals, you are dealing with a company. So I remember one evening we had this really big board and we're writing just different names, different words that we were inspired by. And then we started crossing them out one by one. And then by the time we're left, by the time we're done, we're left with wires and then bytes. So wires because I was the engineering student, and then bytes because my friend was the computer science student. So we put it together and we called the business Wires and Bytes. Initially as a way to help us charge more for the services, the engineering and coding services we're offering. But then there was a time, we're still students at the time. So around the time we're supposed to write exams, we realized that there was no app to help us prepare for exams, right? And in Ghana, one of the way you prepare for exams is to solve previous questions, like past exam questions. And the way you get that is you have to go and get photocopies physical copies from way back, and then take them to a photocopier and then photocopy them and come and try and solve. Usually it's just the questions, so you don't even know whether your answers are correct or wrong. And we're like, wait, so why isn't there an app for this? Why can't I open my phone and then see all of the questions, see the answers and everything? So we're like, hey, let's build something. Let's build an app that makes it possible for students to be able to access past questions and course content from their phones. And so we built our main product, which is Pasco. So basically, Pasco is the student slang for past questions, which was essentially an app that puts together questions and other resources for each program on campus. And so if you are in a program, you just you download the app, and then you go on the app, and then you can access questions, and then we crowdsource the answers from the community, and then the community vets to decide whether the answer is correct or wrong. And
is this going on? Is this still going on, or is it something that you interrupted?
Yeah, we interrupted it. So basically, the way we made money was that when you download the app, you have an amount of, we have an in-app currency called Pasco coins, which you can use to buy some course content. And once that is over, you can top up with actual money and then get access to more content. And it grew organically. We just wanted to test it with one class to see how it was going to go. But then a lot of people started telling other people about it on campus, and then it blew up. And at the time, we had 3,000 students on campus using it. So around the time we're just about to graduate from school, and it was myself, my roommates at the time, and then we had another friend who we're working with. Now, what happened was that we had not had a discussion of, hey, we're about to graduate, what happens from here? And so it's we graduated and everybody made different plans for their lives. And it was difficult to coordinate and keep working together, because in Ghana, you do something called national service, which is compulsory 1 year work that you do for the government. And so it was difficult combining running the company with running, working. So we decided to mutually just bring it to an end. But then So that was Wise and Bytes between 2016 and 2018. And so around the time, I was still working in the university as the IT manager of one of the IT labs, and then at the same time as an engineering researcher at the Department of Agriculture. So I worked on this project that I worked on this project where we're investigating post-harvest losses in grains and trying to develop a technology to make it easy for farmers to measure the moisture content. So I was made to lead that project. A US engineer had developed a prototype of the machine, of the device, and I was asked to reverse engineer and see whether we could redesign it, make it more efficient, make it better, and then locally produce it. So over the course of 1 year, I did all of that. And we launched the project. It was very successful. And my team was like, the other researchers I was working with, they were like, you should start a company out of this. At the time, I was not really looking to start another company because I had the electronics, the Invent Electronics company going on. I had a nonprofit going on, which was Sesi Foundation. We'll talk about that later. And then I was also doing other things on the side. So I wasn't about to start a new company, but they convinced me the potential was there. So I started Sesi Technologies, basically to commercialize the output of the research that I had done at the Department of Agric Engineering. So we brought this moisture meter to market, and it was interesting. We got quite a bit of support to pilot this, understand the market, and do all of that. And it's been 5 years between that time and now, where we have moved beyond just the moisture meter to now developing a whole suite of solutions, helping farmers to reduce losses and increase productivity. So that has been mainly my professional journey. Now, along the way, I took a detour. There was a company that was looking to launch in Ghana. It was a fintech company, Wave, that was looking to launch in Ghana, and they were looking for a country launcher. And I looked at the opportunity, and it sounded interesting. So I decided to take some time off running my company full time to check this out and see. Because at the time we're bootstrapping and money was a bit hard to come by. And these guys were offering to pay me a lot of money. So I was like, hey, worst case scenario, I would have enough money to finance my company. So I worked with Wave to where I was basically helping to launch the product in new countries across Africa. And basically, the idea is as a country launcher, you go to a new country and then you go and introduce the product in that country right from scratch, as if you were building a new company. And basically, that was something I did for almost a year, mainly in Francophone, French-speaking West African countries. And the economic crisis hit, and the company decided that they didn't want to expand to Ghana anymore. So my work with them ended, and then I came back to running my company full-time. So that has been my educational, professional journey. And along the line, I also decided that I wanted to do a master's program. And so actually, I didn't plan to do a master's. The opportunity just landed on my laps. And one of the organizations I had worked with had an opportunity to sponsor some entrepreneurs to go study a new entrepreneurship program that the University of Utah was offering. And so I applied for it, and then I got into it, and I studied at the University of Utah, Master of Business Creation for a year and a half. So essentially that has been the summary of my journey as an entrepreneur.
That's terrific. And so what you described as the technology that you reverse engineered, and then that led up to what you call your company is what we know today as Sesi Technologies, right? Can we talk more in depth about the business model? Now, you mentioned that you produce solutions for reducing inefficiencies in local farmers in, I'm assuming, Ghana or other countries as well. Can you be more specific in terms of what are the inefficiencies that you are fighting against? And how has your technology helped farmers achieve that?
So currently we are active in the grain post-harvest management space. where we are specifically providing solutions to help reduce post-harvest losses in grains. Now in Ghana, as much as 30% of grains that are produced by farmers are lost to post-harvest losses. And then some of the factors that result in these losses include high moisture content, poor storage, lack of market access. They are all linked problems. And so when we came up with the moisture meter, it was to solve the moisture problem, because if you do not measure the moisture content, you may store your grains at too high a moisture content, which will lead to insects. So we came up with this moisture meter where farmers can basically insert the device into a bag of grain and then be able to know whether the moisture content is good enough for storage or the grain has to be dried some more. And then we realized that, just being able to know the moisture content was not enough to prevent post-harvest losses. And so we came up with this new innovation, which were new hermetic storage bags that would kill insects trying to penetrate the grains from the outside. Now in Africa, most grains are stored inside of bags in 50 kilogram, 100 kilogram, or 130 kilogram packs. So we came up with a new storage solution where they could store these grains securely, not have to worry about moisture or insects or pests attacking their grain. And then we realized that farmers...
what kind of material is it that you're using for the box? I mean, the original, normally, what are they stored in? Cardboard?
No, normally they store it in polypropylene bags. So they are like bags made up of like woven plastic fibers. But then those are very poor quality usually, and they do not prevent moisture or insects from attacking the grain. They just hold the grain. So we came up with a better version of that one, which first prevented any air or moisture from entering into the grain. And secondly, it had two layers. So we had an inner layer, which prevented moisture from entering into the grain. And we had an outer layer that was infused with an insecticide that kills the grains. So that was a much superior solution to the solution they already have. And then
what if the grain is already moist when you enter the box and then you seal the box? Don't you get mold from that?
Yeah, so the moisture content has to be at a certain level before you put into the bag. That is why we have the moisture meter, so that you know whether it is okay to put it in the bag or not. Right. So then we realized that even before we get to the bags, when farmers harvest, they have challenges with some of the processes like drying and threshing. So we also started offering those services. And with time, we started to build a portfolio of products and services that together was meant to help, solve all of the different causes of post-harvest losses, so that farmers could, first of all, reduce losses. Secondly, improve their productivity because of all of the machines that we're now bringing in to help them do things faster. And thirdly, increase their income. Now, increase their income because we also came up with a platform where farmers could sell their grains for much better prices than just selling on the open market. So Sesi Technologies is just a combination of different products and services that together address all of the challenges in post-harvest losses. So usually mainly we target first smallholder farmers, but then also like more established businesses. So we have a service model where we provide services to the smallholder farmers. And then for the agribusinesses, they can purchase our products like directly.
Right. So how do you approach the small farmer? How do they find you? How do they purchase your products? How do you distribute?
So our model is that we have strong relationships with the World Food Program, who have access to a large network of farmers whom they've given us access to. So we look for which areas are the most viable, which have the most active farmers. And then we go into those areas. And now all of the farmers are organized into farmer-based organizations. And so we approach the most active farmer-based organizations. We let them know our proposal, what we plan to offer. And if they are happy with what we are offering, then we register them onto our platform. We establish a presence in the community and we start offering our services.
I see. So and then you have someone that is steadily in that community. So you establish you anchor yourself in that community.
Yes.
So when we say a community, we mean what? We mean small villages. We mean like what population are you referring to when you target a community specifically?
Yeah. So usually in a community is usually like a small town. A small town that would have maybe from 5,000 to 20,000 people within their community. And in that town, majority of those people will be farmers. We also work in the towns that surround the town that we're established in.
Okay. And what is the output of the average, out of curiosity, the average small farmer in an environment like that?
Yeah, so it varies, right? You can have outputs as small as, say, 2 hectares, right? The farmer just cultivates on 2 hectares. And then you can have some as big as 10 hectares, right? So it's just between those bounds. Because in a group, you'd have farmers that are just farming just for their own sustenance, and they sell the surplus. And then you also have farmers who are actually doing farming as a business. And so those people have much larger farms or will be doing cultivating different crops.
So your platform for selling your crops, for selling your crops, how has it disrupted the previous model of selling crops?
Well, we haven't gotten to the scale where we will say we have disrupted the
or
previous model.
What's the vision? How could it disrupt it?
Yeah, so the vision is that we want to solve the supply chain bottlenecks and the inefficiencies within the grain supply chain, where the people who have the grains to sell are not finding the right people to sell the grains to, and the people who want grains to buy do not know where to find grains to sell, do not know where to find the sellers. And so, the buyers have to move from town to town, from village to village, from community to community, looking for grains to aggregate. The sellers also have to wait for someone to come and make them an offer before they sell. Otherwise, they have to take their grains to the open market. And usually they are subject to the prices of they are subject to the forces of demand and supply. So on a day where everybody is taking their grain to the market, the prices come down. On a day where the grains are scarce, the prices go up. So we wanted to smoothen out all of those efficiencies by building this platform where farmers that have grains to sell can put their grains online through us. And then we work with partners like off-takers, poultry farmers, people who want grains to buy can also find those grains to buy. And then we create that seamless bridge between these two people. And so, the idea is to just to remove all of the bottlenecks and inefficiencies in the supply chain, so that which increase cost and results in low productivity, so that in the end we can create shared increased value for everyone involved in the supply chain.
At which stage is this platform right now? Is it still beta, or have you actually put it out there?
Yeah, it's currently in beta. We are testing with a few hundred farmers and some suppliers. And then because this is something that is new and novel, we want to get a lot of data. We want to really, validate all of our assumptions before we make it open. And because our harvest cycles are if you miss the season, you have to wait for the next season before you can try out some of the features. And so sometimes it takes a lot of time to validate some of the assumptions.
Usually in the case of commodities, does it make sense to have almost like a personal relationship between the wholesaler and the small farmer? For efficiency purposes, does it make more sense to buy large batches of seeds of grain? Isn't that what most wholesalers, or whatever you call them, prefer?
Yeah, that is what is preferred. But you know, the volumes that the smallholder farmers are doing are too small individually to meet the needs of that wholesaler. So that wholesaler has to now have his people go around and buy from several hundreds of farmers to meet their needs, which is not efficient because now you have to go and find who the people are. And then you have to the logistics and the movement of all of that grain is very time consuming and not really feasible. And so we open up the market for the farmers to be able to, access better offers from other places rather than just waiting in their house for someone to come and pass by and ask you, hey, do you have corn to sell? Okay, I'll give you this price. And then you know that he's shortchanging you, but because you need the money anyway, you still have to sell. So basically we create this platform and then open it up for farmers to be able to access a bigger potential market.
Traditionally in the US and all over the world, really, small communities, they would gather their grain and then they would sell it as a village. Is this how it happens now?
In some communities you might have something like that, but then for most people you don't have cooperatives that are that organized and that established to be able to do that. It exists, but then that is not the status quo. That is not the norm. Mostly it's just farmers selling their grains individually, because that's what is most common. The corporate or the aggregate model is not something that is very common because their structures are not really established.
So you can be two houses down the street from another guy, you can receive two different prices from the same wholesaler?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So wholesalers are always trying to get the lowest price possible. So they are going to push. Yeah.
Very exciting. Describe Sesi Technologies right now. How big is it in terms of employment, in terms of revenues, etc.?
Yeah, so we're still a small team. In total, we are 17 in number. That is made up of full-time, a couple of part-time, and a couple of people that are doing national service. It's still fully bootstrapped, and so we are taking a more careful approach to growth. Especially in the agri space where things are more conservative, you have to be a bit more careful. But then this year we're looking to scale up some of the things we are doing, and so we are looking to grow a bit more faster. So far so good. It's been a good journey, and we like where we are now. We're happy with where we are now. While we're happy where we are now, we want to grow much faster in the coming years and then make our products more widely available to more farmers.
So what's your vision for Sesi Technologies? Is it to eventually sell it to a foreign conglomerate?
No, that's a good idea. That's a good question. At some point, I want to have some sort of exit, right? And so, and then go do something interesting that I like, which doesn't involve, the stress of running a startup, right? And I love what I do at Sesi Technologies, but I feel like at some point I want to hang my boots and say, hey, I have given 15 years of my life to this, and so I'm ready for the next thing. And so for Ghana, the most likely outcome would be a strategic acquisition. So maybe some other company comes and says, hey, we want to expand to Ghana. We think what you're doing really complements what we want to do. We want to acquire you. I'm like, hey, bring all the dollars. So that's the end goal.
And do you find that you have competitive advantage compared to perhaps an American company that could produce something at a lower price point and enter, but you feel that you have a competitive advantage because you're African, because you know the market, as far as expanding in other countries as well?
Well, Africa is a very, very fragmented place, to be honest. And even within Ghana, systems and things that will work in the South may not work in the North, right? Yeah. And then you have all of these countries, there are language barriers, there are currency barriers, there's cultural barriers, there are a lot of things. So things that will work in Ghana may not necessarily work in other places. So it doesn't necessarily give you a competitive advantage of any sort. I mean, knowing the market is great. Knowing the market is great, but then it's really it's not necessarily a competitive advantage, depending on what is going on and depending on like what specifically you are doing and all of that.
So why haven't already established companies, for example, companies that license the product that the scientist whose product you reverse engineered? How come nobody has thought to do this, to become your competitor?
Well, the thing is, it's difficult. The process of bringing the technology to market, validating the assumptions, building the market, especially for a novel technology, is difficult. No one wants to do that. Everybody is waiting for someone to do it. And once the market is established and validated, then you get to a certain scale, they see that, okay, this is a good product. That is when people are going to come in and say, hey, let's start competing with you, right? And so everybody wants someone else to do all of the dirty work, and then they can just swoop in.
And then come and acquire you, right? So that's
right. Yeah, either come and acquire you or come and compete with you and kick you into oblivion.
Right. So
yeah,
it sounds like you're an entrepreneur where your heart is in many different places. Do you think of Isaac Sesi as almost like as a producer of startups, which you eventually want to exit? And how come haven't you kind of packaged that whole thing in a company that does other things as well? And how come are you only focusing on agribusiness as far as that company is concerned?
Not necessarily. For me, it's like I have done other startups in the past, and all of them has been part of the journey, part of the learning process. I'm not working on a lot of things simultaneously. This is the startup I am running full time. There are a couple of other things I do to generate extra income, which are just like money making opportunities. But then as far as startup is concerned, this is what I'm working on. I'm passionate about it. I'm doing it. And I mean, at some point I hope to exit, but then, for now it's just, this is what I'm dedicated to.
So how did you, as far as financing the company, what was your source of financing? You said that you worked for another company and you made some money and you used it for it, but have you considered taking venture capital or crowdfunding or something like that for building Sesi Technologies?
Yeah. So in the beginning, it was a combination of startup pitch competitions, grants. Combination of startup pitch competitions and grants. We raised about $300,000, from these startup pitch competitions, grants, some of my own personal money. But in Ghana, especially in Africa, the VC scene is non-existent. It takes you need to build a lot of traction to get to the point where you are able to attract VC funding and other external funding. I mean, banks are out of the question because right now, interest rates in Ghana is 50%. So basically, as an African startup, the odds are stacked against you. You need to do more to get compared to a startup in the West, where with an idea, you can even get an accelerator, get 50,000, 100,000. In Africa, you need to do more to get to the point where investors from the West are willing to trust you with their money. So our approach is to use all of the different sources of funding that are available to us to build a company to the point where we are attractive for investors, and then we can raise institutional funding.
So what's your image of yourself right now, and where do you see yourself in 10 years from now?
10 years from now, I am hoping to have exited Sesi Technologies, doing something that I am interested in. I like music. I like making YouTube videos. I like doing non-profit work. I like farming. And so I like also giving back to society. So maybe set up a foundation, support other entrepreneurs, other students. But then I don't want to be actively involved in the startup world for maybe more than another 10 years, because is very, very stressful. And I feel like after 10 years, I feel like I would have given enough of my life to really helping to build build technology that improves African agriculture. And it would be interesting to see where Sesi Technologies is at that time.
Great. So as a last question, what do you want out of life, and how has that changed over time?
For me, I want to be happy and fulfilled, right? So it's happiness, fulfillment in whatever I'm doing. I want to do it because I love it. I enjoy doing it, and not necessarily. I mean, money is good. Money is nice. Money helps you to live a certain kind of life. But then for me, happiness and fulfillment is more important. So like I have a family, I have kids, I have, if I have family, I have kids, I'm happy, I have good health, we're able to afford what we need. It's good for me, right? And I'm doing things, I'm spending my time doing things that I love, not because I have to do them, because I want to do them and I love doing them. That's me. I'm a simple guy.